Duckies and Dice Fiends, welcome on in. And Jazzy, Eugenio, thank you so much for the raid. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Kay, and this way is David. I think you're this way. I could be wrong. Which way are you? I'm waiting for the thing to catch up. Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and find out. Nope, this way. And welcome to the Chaotic Wholesome Presents Table Talk Show. Hey, Lady Luck. Well, let me do that. David. Hey, Cypher. David, who the heck is you? And what the heck is we doing here?
Hi. Welcome to the I am David and this is Kay. If you work in game dev, it's a really fucking shitty day. Table Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
Yes. So we do this every Tuesday. We come here and we talk about TTRPG things. And today it is TTRPG related. Y'all, it's a rough time to be in the world. Everything sucks right now. Everything in the news sucks. Look, I'm about to go make a drink, right? From what's happening over in Israel and Palestine to what's happening on our college campuses to announcements today that Microsoft made decisions, and Microsoft is my publisher, so I have to be, just diplomatic. A little careful about what I say. Hey, Candace. But we want to take this time to talk about a little bit about burnout, because burnout, we generally associate it with crunching at work, with working too much overtime, but burnout can happen in many, many, many different ways. And burnout can happen doing the thing that you love. I know, because it happened to me. Also, my voice is kind of trying to go, so if I sound scratchy, apologies. Allergies are terrible right now. Yet another reason the world is terrible. And thank you so much, Prelt, for the follow. We appreciate. I don't know if you heard my neighbor's child screaming, but that was... Thankfully, we cannot. Ooh, that was a sound.
I mean, if you want, I can simulate a child screaming.
I think we're good. But okay. I appreciate
because that's in the back. I've never tried to make baby sounds, especially baby screaming sounds, but the attempt would be brain shattering, mostly my brain.
Yeah, definitely. So I know that, David, I have talked to you about experiencing burnout. Because I am still I swear I am still in recovery mode from professional burnout, and I'm trying very hard to not burn out with this stuff that I love, doing TTRPG stuff. But David, have you hit burnout?
Oh boy, I have hit burnout at many different stages, and due to events for the past 6 weeks, 6 months, 40 years, I am experiencing recovery. And y'all, what one thing Kay and I both have in common is we use our brains to assault problems. And it is important to recognize that you cannot outthink the physical and physiological effects of the things that happen to you. Because let's be real, burnout is trauma. And again, I don't have a degree in psychology. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not your therapist, though if you would like to pay me to be your therapist poorly, to be a bad therapist, please feel free. The Ko-fi page is right there. But trauma is just stuff that happens to you that overwhelms your ability to process it. And so people think that trauma has to be this awful, catastrophic, life-changing thing that happens to you. But really, if you're at work and someone at work yells at you for 10 minutes straight, that is a trauma that you endure. Just like when they're done yelling at you, you punch them directly in the mouth. That is a trauma you endure with your hand. Your hand hurts real bad, and that is one of the downsides of giving an appropriate response to people coming at you too tough. But you have to remember that, like, even if mentally you're like, okay, I understand this thing happened to me, I'm ready to move on from it, the other parts of your brain and your body aren't necessarily ready to move on from it. And being patient while your body and the other parts of your brain recovers is incredibly difficult, let me tell you.
Especially when you are really trying to be logical about things. It's like, I've rested for X amount of time. That should be enough, right? Right. I'm also going to point out, and I think this is where it can... When I experienced professional burnout. I burned out very, very hard at DeviantArt. And it wasn't actually from being overworked, which, let me be clear, I was, but I did 250,000 tickets in 1 year. And I didn't burn out for another several years. The reason I burnt out, and the reason people often, the kind of burnout that is often not really assuming a linear sequence of recovery was one of my mistakes. Yeah, it's not linear. It's definitely not linear, Lady Luck. One of the biggest challenges with burnout, with identifying, you can burn out in different ways. And yes, being overworked and dealing with that trauma is one of them. But one of the biggest causes of burnout for me is a lack of control, an inability to impact your environment or to improve your condition. And that is what caused me to burn out. I was doing a ton of tickets, but I was making progress. I was watching backlog shrink. I was training new people. We were making headway, and that felt good. But when at that point we had been acquired, we had been promised that we were going to be infused with a bunch of new people to replace, we went through downsizing to replace people that we'd lost, to build the team back up, and I looked and I was like, it's been, I don't remember if it was a year and a half, 2 years, but it had been X amount of time after the acquisition, after we'd been promised we would get this infusion of people and resources. And I was like, I am further behind today than when I was hired 15 years ago. And that is when I realized, that's what caused me to burn out, because I was like, it doesn't matter how hard I try, I can't win. And I'm not going to get the resources to help me win. Or even just stay the same. Maintain. Or even just the resource to maintain. I am just constantly behind and constantly falling further behind. And I am entirely sure that my therapist and people listening who are therapists or therapist adjacent are going to be like, okay, no, that's not really true. But I can be very busy and not burn out for a very long time. It's when I am busy or even not busy, but I can't change or improve things. That is when my mental health just tanks. And that is, I think, one of the challenges for me in the TTRPG space, is because I can plan things, I can get things going, I can have graphics and advertisements, and then people can't make it. And then everything has to be rescheduled. And then your automatic captions decide that one of the Black performer's characters on this stream, that his name is a Nazi. So I have to go through, and instead of going through the stuff I had planned, I have to go back and manually redo all of the captions to remove that. Yes. So I want to make sure we talk about, like I said, most people, you hear, oh yeah, burnout. Well, I'm not crunching. I'm not working 60 or 80-hour weeks, so there's no reason for me to burn out. No, you can burn out for many reasons.
And also remember that like not everybody is built for every type of labor.
Mm-hmm.
Like outside of strain on my body, I can go and dig ditches and chop wood and like do that day in and day out and like be fine. But if you need me to do something like small and tedious, like if you want me to like sort glitter by color, you got about 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes tops before suddenly all of the glitter is on fire and somebody's coming at you with a knife.
Lady Luck says that her burnout was a mix of factors a few years ago: a lack of support or acknowledgement of the overwork, no belief in a path to things getting better, and being an overachiever. Basically self-pressure to deliver even when overworked. Yep, I understand that. All too well.
I just moved for like the third or fourth time in my life. Man. Listen, if the lesbian woodchopper on TikTok has me and everybody else who's ever seen her by the goddamn throat, okay? And she does it for charity. Boy, killing me. Anyway, I moved, and when I was more than 15 years ago, God, more than 20 years ago, I met my friend's future fiance, now wife, at a party, and she spilled glitter in my backpack. Because it was Halloween, she was a fairy, she had a big thing of glitter. When I was cleaning my room for the move, a couple weeks ago, I found glitter from 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Glitter never goes away.
There is a brilliant, if you want to torture your players, anyone who runs a campaign for David, anyone, I am begging you to add in, give him the second-hand bag of holding. It functions exactly like a regular bag of holding, but everything you pull out comes out with just a little bit of glitter on it.
Oh no.
It's the most brilliant magical item I've ever heard of.
I will get on an airplane. Right. And anyway, but so like different people are built for different things. Yeah. And so also recognize so like when people talk about successful business people, the Theranos chick, the people who ran Enron, the person that owns Twitch, and so on, they always ignore the security that money gives them. Mm-hmm. But there's this big focus on how these people do all the things and work really hard, and the reality is that's just not how it works. Mm-hmm. All of these people have massive support systems that they pay for, mm-hmm. but massive support systems, and that includes other people doing the things that they are bad at, that they don't have the patience for,
or that they don't know how to do yet.
Right. So recognize that there are different things that you don't necessarily like are built for. Like I can't art, and I understand it's a skill that you can learn, but there are many like traumatic events that have happened over the course of my life that now prevent me from arting. And so Kay,
oh my goodness, the transmission, thank you so much for the raid. Oh, what were you playing? Our message is a little bit messed up. Thank you so much Welcome
Welcome
on in,
everybody.
everyone. So hi, I am Kay. This is Gilmore. That is David. We do the Table Talk Show. Every Tuesday, we come here and we talk about all things TTRPGs, from indies to intersectionality. And thank you for the follow, Hemulau. I think I got that right. Hello, Ghosty. So yes, welcome in. We are discussing burnout and how that can happen in the TTRPG space, in the streaming space, and it can happen for a number of reasons, not just from being overworked, but from being unable to change your circumstances. All of those things. Hello, Jason. Welcome. Oh goodness, thank you, Emily Bart. I am overwhelmed, y'all, and I'm trying to keep this on. I'm at a standing desk, so I don't have anything to help support this cat, and he's not that heavy, but it gets heavy real fast in this position. So welcome on in, everyone. If you've had experience with burnout, feel free to share. You certainly do not have to. Welcome, Rex. Hello, Suika the Witch. Good gravy, and thank you. This is my very sweet little adopted Gilmore. He is 8 pounds, less than 8 pounds, and runs the entire house, including the cat, who's double his size. Yes. And yes, he is named after that Gilmore, who is behind me. But if you have a favorite fandom Gilmore and would like to tell me your favorite Gilmore from a show, movie, song, etc., I am always happy to hear, because I have learned so much about the Gilmore Girls lore since adopting him.
I have not seen an episode of Gilmore Girls, and I feel like at this point I should.
I have seen a few. My old manager was obsessed with it at DeviantArt. She ran the biggest official Gilmore Girls website, fan site.
Do you think she's a Swiftie now?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. No question.
And look, no, absolutely zero hate to Swifties. All of our hatred is reserved for Drake. The Swifties get a pass. However, it's okay to be enthusiastic about it, but let's not. Let's keep the enthusiasm positive. Is all I'm gonna say before the internet comes and finds me.
But yes, David was saying, which I very much agree with, that, oh goodness, hi buddy. I'm gonna try and talk through Cat. I hope you all can hear me. That, yes, a lot of these people have a lot of, not just money, but also resources, right? And when you have money, you can fail, right? It's easier. They were even talking about, they talk about doing a successful startup is kind of like, they don't even want to say, like, it's not like winning, it's like winning the lottery, except that people who can afford to buy 2,000 lottery tickets are way more likely to win the lottery than the person who can buy one ticket every couple times. So it's not quite the same.
And also remember that, and this statistic is probably outdated, but on average, every successful business owner starts 4 businesses, which means that 3 times you're like, I've got a great idea. Let me hustle up $20,000, $100,000, $500,000. And then they're like, broke, failed, didn't work. And then they go back to the well. Now, I don't know about you, but I can scare up $500,000 to, say, start a restaurant maybe once before I am financially ruined and living under a bridge for the rest of my life.
Or you gotta break out the Joe Exotic. I'm never gonna financially recover.
Right. And it's tough. Like, and so yeah, so like when it comes to burnout, when it comes to TTRPG burnout, remember that, especially for creators, you are every aspect of the business.
Yes.
Because you look at Kay. Kay is social media manager, creative director, writes copy,
Video edits.
video, yeah, or the video editor, the recruitment, and remember that 90% of the TTRPG is hard work that not everybody gets to see or necessarily appreciate.
Lady Lux says becoming a bridge troll is the villain origin arc now.
Yeah.
And yes, so again, we talk about, for those of you who don't know, hi, welcome, I'm Kay. I work in video games. I currently work on Contraband. I have worked at Red Bull Gaming. I was one of the first 50 employees at DeviantArt. I have been community managing for a long time. Community management is kind of the Wild West of things. And I have, over many, 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 many years of doing these things professionally, of watching I was a community manager before social media was a term. When I started at DeviantArt, Facebook didn't exist, right? So I have been, yes, that's how long I've been a community manager.
So we're dating ourselves now is what we're doing.
We are definitely dating ourselves. I learned all of these skills as things started appearing, and I worked with these really brilliant, creative people who worked in technology, who saw up and coming things like Justin TV and all these weird, and I started learning from them. So I have become something of a jack of all trades because I worked at DeviantArt. I wanted to be an artist. I was very briefly a working artist. I was a comic book artist professionally for a little bit. So I knew how to do Photoshop and some basic stuff. And then we started doing live streams and I started doing that. And I majored in English and people were like, oh, you're really good at writing. Do you want to write articles about fandom stuff that happens on the site? And that became an ad package. And I had all of these skills that I had picked up from different places. And they all fit very nicely into TTRPG production. But let me be very clear. You don't even have to be a TTRPG streamer. If you are a streamer, you have about 8 different jobs. Because you have to understand your audience. You have to find a game that both you like and will appeal to your audience. That is challenging. How many streamers, especially in the early days of Twitch, just like vanished because they changed the game they were playing and their audience evaporated, right? You got to keep that. The minute you change things, you lose people. So you got to figure out, I have to change because playing Fortnite's driving me bananas. I have to play something else. How do I bring in viewers to replace the ones I'm going to lose in this shift? You have to do all of your marketing. That includes your overlays. That includes the pop-ups and what happens when people raid you or follow you. That includes, my cat shows up on stream a lot, so I'm going to put a !cat command that's going to trigger a cat counter. That includes scheduling. When are you going to stream? How much of your life are you dedicating to this? This includes social media marketing. This includes your business plan. This includes figuring out, balancing your budget of, I have on average X number of Twitch subscribers. That means I get X number of dollars every couple months. How much of that can and should, and how quickly can I reinvest it to improve my equipment, right? You have to video edit. Nowadays, you have to figure out how to make shorts. I hate making short form content. I don't even consume short form content. Like, I am not a TikToker. David watches 2,000% more TikTok than I do. And I watch it and I'm like, that's a good video. And I close it. And TikTok's like, no, watch all this stuff. I'm like, I don't want to watch that stuff. I wanted to watch the exact one that my friend sent me and I'm done. I have to make short form content. It is not a natural thing to me. You have to be quick on memes, right? You are doing a billion jobs. And if you are not good at even one of them, everything in your business, everything in your stream suffers, which is part of why we do this show and part of why our Discord, which by the way, you do not have to, but if you stream or are looking for help or are trying to improve your TTRPG stuff, we have an entire resource channel for tech, for TTRPGs, for all this, because we do this to share knowledge, because there's so much out there.
Also, we use the resources in the resource channel. Like the resource channel's for us too. Like we go there and we're like, oh, that's cool. We're gonna use that.
Rex has posted stuff where I've been like, yoink. Rex is the reason. I knew DC Lacer because I knew that he moderated and did production on things. I found his Tech Fridays because Rex posted it in our channel, and I'm like, oh, and I do not run production the exact same way as DC does,
But you
I
learn
sure
a lot.
stole a lot of his ideas.
Right.
I incorporate them a little bit differently because that's my personal style. But yes, so my therapist has been telling me I need to be more comfortable asking for help, which I think I'm not bad about asking for help and using resources others have offered, but do that for yourself. You don't have to learn it all on your own. And even one of the best ways to get help is to say, hey, thank you for the follow, Kirian. One of the best ways to get help from just about anyone in the streaming space, not everyone, but pretty much everyone in the streaming space, especially the TTRPG space. If you say, hey, I am trying to X, I have figured out these things, what do I need to do? People will tell you their process or give you a video or give you the plugin that they use. And that is amazing. If you come up to someone and go, I want to start streaming and I don't know anything, where do I start? You're not going to get that great.
Yeah, you're going to get laughed
probably
out of the building.
Right. I mean, it's not even that. There's just too much. It's like there's plenty on the very basics. But if you come to me and are like, Kay, I really like your Pathfinder Party Up thing. How did you make it? I'm going to say, well, I didn't make it. That's right. Mr. Live Producer. But I can show you how to make the random dice roll. I can show you how to do all these things. And I'm happy to share the information and share the tools that I have made. And if I haven't made them, I'm going to send you to the person who made them so that you can learn from them and or support them.
And it's been one of the best. It's been one of the best things about the TTRPG community is because you see all these cool things, whether it is like a particular prop that someone uses or a particular effect that someone has on their channel, or you like the way, like DC Lacer does a lot of like hardware reviews and like hardware tech, and be like, because I don't know about you, but I don't have several $1,000s to just go through microphones. And you watch enough streams and you'll see like the Blue Yeti everywhere. And then someone like DC Lacer or other like audiophiles I know in real life will look at you and go, why would you spend $300 for a substandard microphone when you could spend $150 on a microphone that sounds better and does more things, compared to same thing with like webcams. I was just talking to Kay about getting additional lighting for my own setup, because like right now, blank background, that's gonna improve over time because I moved and I don't know how to put up shelves. Like I'm under the opinion, look me in the eye.
I can put up shelves. How can you not put up shelves?
That's because you're a better human being. No. I'm of the opinion that if you're in my generation or a little bit younger, you were raised to be one of two types of men. You were either a computer guy or a car guy. And I was raised to be a computer guy. And also like building things out of raw materials falls under the art category. And so I've never been good at it. And I'm always just, y'all, if you can,
shelves isn't art.
If you can cut a straight line with a circular saw on a piece of wood, and if you've done it once in your life, then you are better than all of the construction things that I have ever attempted. I'm really good at destroying things. In high school, I literally helped tear down a teacher's house, and there was a stubborn wall, And I literally went and got my lacrosse padding, and then came back and tackled the wall down because I'm great at we had an organic garden, and I understand that we're getting into weeds here, okay? But literally weeds. We had an organic garden, and they couldn't kill weeds in a particular place. And I'm like, hey, I have a story from when I was a kid whereby we couldn't get the weeds dead, and so my dad just gave me like an adze. It's like a pickaxe, but like, and then I went out there and turned it over, and then everything died. Because whenever I tried to grow something, it all died. And so he's like, well, you got a black thumb, go put it to good use. And guess what? Like 1.5 acres of fucking organic garden out of like the 20 something acre. They couldn't get the weeds dead. And then I went out there for a couple afternoons, and then everything there died. They couldn't grow anything in there for a couple of weeks. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know what it is about me. I don't know if it's my ancestors being like, listen, we're not gonna let you go out there and like grow things. It might be cotton out there. Absolutely not. No. But like I said, the background is going to improve. And guess what? YouTube University. Do you think that I'm not gonna be like, hey Kay, how do I put up one of these shelves? Because you know what you're doing. And Kay is gonna be like, okay, listen, you go get your drill, and I'm like, I don't got one of those. I'm not equipped. Look, I have watched Kay build things in their apartment. Incredible.
I don't know how you exist without a drill. I don't know how anyone can exist in this world without. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It just has to be a mediocre drill.
Because I always have an adult handy. I'm like, listen, I need an adult. Come drill this thing.
Lady Lex says I can sew things. I have no idea how to use power saws. I do both. Thank you for the follow, old Mad Ben. Welcome.
Yeah, and Kay's talking about all like the work stuff they've done. Not one mention of the cosplay. Not one mention.
Too many dice that I've made and not finished.
Listen, but you finished plenty. That reminds me, I got to find my decider. That's somewhere around here.
So getting a little bit back on topic, and in fact, I won't call out who, but someone was on the internet with an opinion about the child of a celebrity being so incredibly talented in this one particular field, and going on about how like, oh my God, if I'd had a fraction of that talent at 16, I would da 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 da. And people were like, no, that's not it. She is the child of a celebrity who is homeschooling her, who has private tutors for her. So she's not going to school. She's learning exactly what she wants to learn in the most focused way for her, without distraction, with a huge focus on the music, not having to work, not having to worry about money. It is just pure focus on that. And if all of us had the ability, David, if you had the ability to do absolutely nothing else except learn how to do all things OBS, didn't have to think about anything else, with a tutor. It's like the bodybuilders, right? How do celebrities get in such great shape for these roles? That's all they do.
Yep.
They have a person who tells them what to work out, what to eat. They work out, they eat, they sleep. That's what they do. Most of us can't do that, so we're not going to be in that kind of shape.
If you ever think you're ugly, you're not ugly, you're poor. Because for every pretty person that you see who's like where it's their job to be pretty, for when you see Zac Efron in Baywatch, for when you see Henry Cavill in The Witcher, not only is it their job to get up, eat, pick up heavy things, and then nap. And that's what they do with their 24 hours. But there is a personal chef, there is a nutritionist, there is a physical therapist, there is a personal trainer, there is a private gym, and like in the more extreme cases, there are plastic surgeons. And there are just all of these people dedicated. There is an entire community, and that's ultimately what it boils down to. There is a community working together to make one person achieve their goals. And the reality is that all of us who are successful, whatever success we have, is the result of community contributions in some form or fashion that lead us to that success.
And yes, a lot of streaming, a lot of this is privilege. I am privileged that I have a job that gives me enough time and I make enough money that I can afford a nice webcam, a good microphone, lighting. I can make sure that I can learn the things that I need to learn, that I can afford to pay the hosting subscriptions, right? There are so many people who can't stream because they just can't afford internet fast enough to allow them to stream without horrible stuttering. And yes, community is huge, especially in the TTRPG space. Because while there are solo TTRPGs, and you could stream a solo journal TTRPG, that's not generally what people get into when they watch their streams. You want to watch the inter-party drama and conflict and romance. You want to watch the bad decisions and everyone else react to the bad decision or the big reveal. And again, that's part of why we do this, because if it were David and I on an island trying to learn all of this all on our own, trying to build a community, moderate, do all this stuff, write and run games just with the two of us, it wouldn't happen.
I mean, we'd write some awesome games.
We would. Well, we would write some cool modules
That
but
no one
we
would
would both know what the module is, so we couldn't play it.
Super fair.
And how that community hopefully helps on the path back from burnout, even if that path is not the same for everyone. Exactly. David just moved. David's been going through some stuff around that. I am incredibly privileged that I work in the games industry and I'm still employed, knocking on wood very loudly, right? I have hit burnout, and I have hit like a turning point where stuff has been very hard. And David and I have a project that we've been working on, and we got so excited a couple months ago and ran some play tests, and I have all of this feedback that I can't read right now, because I know that in this, where I am in my life, as privileged as it is, if I read that feedback, even feedback I specifically requested and I want, it's going to mess me up. It's not going to be good. And I need to just put that on a back burner and focus on other things until I'm at a place where I can do that. So one of the ways, now, burnout, I'm going to look directly in the camera, and I'm going to say this very loudly. Burnout is not your fault. Even if burnout is your fault, because there are times when people, we do the thing that we love so hard that we can't do the thing that we love anymore, or for a while, right? Even then, that is not your fault, because our brain chemistry messes with us. Your brain says, ooh, I like this. I'm going to keep hitting that dopamine button. Oh no, we're out of dopamine. Sucks to be you, right? Emotional intelligence and knowing yourself and your limits can help you avoid burnout and can help you realize when you're going, oh, I love playing TTRPGs and I love the 6 games that I'm in, but maybe the 6 games are a little much right now. Or I love 5 of the 6 games that I'm in, and this 5th game is making me, or the 6th game is making me not like TTRPGs in general. Maybe I need to back out of that game. Your emotional intelligence will help you figure out where you are, but burnout is not your fault. You do not have to feel guilty. Recovery, as Lady Luck says, is not a straight line. There are days when I'm like, I'm going to do all the things. And then the next day I'm like, I can't do any of them. I can't do any of them today.
A lot of like, in addition to like things that I have going on, there've been a lot of like physiological and physical things. And I had this huge problem with my stomach, and it caused all sorts of Now, I'm a big guy. I'm pretty strong. And like, I'm the one who gets the phone call when something big and heavy needs to be moved. So when I tell you that I got out of bed like a week and a half ago and went to pick up a small box of rubber duckies to take up a flight of stairs and didn't make it to the stairs and was like, I have to put this down. Like, it's frustrating and it's infuriating, but the stuff that you are good at, the stuff that you know you can do, there will be times in your life where you will face something or something will happen where you are prevented from doing that. Like both career wise and personally, the thing I do is write. I am a writer by trade. If I don't write, my brain doesn't work right. Oh boy, boy. I wonder if the captions got that right. Anyway, oh my God, it got it right.
Uh-huh.
Good job, Google. Good pancake.
Thank you, Pixel TV. That's who we use for these captions.
Yes, thank you,
Pixel. Which does the Google API. But again, community, these captions are free by Pixel-TV.
But I've been working on multiple things that I've wanted to write for months now. And my brain's been too scrambled to do them. And it's like, this is the thing that I do. This is the thing that I love. Why am I? Is because your brain chemistry. And there are lots of other things that listen, y'all. Kay and I have so many things that we want to put together and run for y'all. And anybody who's done any sort of production knows that just the pre-production part of it, before you get to casting or lines and veils or any of that stuff, it's a lot before you get to that point. And Kay and I are churning through a lot of that, and Kay is stuck doing tedious bullshit, and I'm stuck trying to like become a person again and do all my things.
Kay opened the YouTube out, opened our YouTube back in today and was like, okay, let's figure out how to work with the algorithm. Nope, can't do it.
And you have to remember that as frustrating as it is and as impatient as you are to get results, this too is part of the process. It's like cooking something. Cooking something is never, you go into the kitchen, you turn on the stove, and then you gotta do dishes. And there's something that's gotta be put away. And you gotta get the cat off the counter. And like, there's no recipe book out there that's like, all right, so step one, you take the cat off of the counter and put it. It's never
and
that.
Then make sure you wipe it down, because while those beans are adorable, you don't know where they've been.
Right.
Also, thank you for the follow, Craving Cookie.
You know precisely where they've been. That's why you gotta wipe it down. But it's never, you take the thing out of the freezer, and then you got to sit and wait for it to defrost, and it always takes longer than you think. And it's the same thing with doing TTRPGs. And the frustration from waiting, the frustration from unanticipated obstacles, the frustration from doing dishes for an hour and you still haven't started cooking yet, all those things, whether it is tedium or lack of support or like Lady Luck said earlier, not having support, not having, or just treading water, all of these things causes a great deal that puts pressure on your brain, and that's where burnout comes from.
Yep. And especially when we talk about streaming, be it TTRPGs or video games or cooking, whatever kind of streaming you're doing, the hardest part is the first several months, because It is so difficult to stream to an empty chat. It is so difficult to stream to the 1, maybe 2 viewers who may or may not be there. But you still have to put on a show because you don't know when you're going to get a raid from DM Jazzy Hand. You don't know when someone is going to come by and be like, oh, this person is really entertaining. And then they will raid into you next time, right? You have to put on that show. It is so much work, and you don't necessarily realize how much work it is until you are doing it and you're like, I just want to like hyper focus on this thing and push the buttons correctly. But if you do that, it's a boring stream. And I know I have raised 4 different Twitch channels to affiliate, each one in fewer than 3 months. Okay. I know how to do this. It's still challenging. It's still challenging even when you know I have 4 people on Discord that I can ping and say, will you just come and lurk in this chat? Because that's all you have to do to hit affiliate, really. But you got to have 4 people who will do that. You got to have an amazing person like David who will be like, yeah, you're having a really hard time. You know, you're working really hard on all this. We need content up regularly. Sure, I'll hop on and do a talk show with you. Never done one. Sounds cool. Let's try it, right? You have to have those connections. You have to have those friendships and those communities, and you have to pay it forward. We raid after every single stream, not necessarily because my raiding into GM Jazzy Hands isn't going to change his day, right? His viewership far exceeds mine. But it's a way of showing, I support you, I appreciate you, I see what you do for me, I'm raiding you, and then I'm also going to raid smaller streams to help uplift them.
And also, like, connecting a bigger community. Because what we keep talking about on this channel, in the talk show, and in the games we play, is the importance of community. Because we talk about inclusivity, we talk about intersectionality, because without those things, we are isolated from one another. And whether it is the TTRPG space or the streaming space or any other sort of entertainment space, there are all these little kingdoms that are isolated from one another, and it becomes this echo chamber where bad things are grown. And you know, the more isolation that happens, the more insular communities become, the less good it is for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that like the #1 incel YouTuber should pop in here with, you know, please their don't. Thousands of followers. No. Absolutely, please do not do that. But maybe, just maybe, that incel community would be a little bit smaller if people were connected better and were introduced to people who don't necessarily look like them. Like I saw like a statistic somewhere where it's like 70% of white people don't have a friend from a different nationality. And I'm like, how?
I went to a private school in Texas. We had 1 Hispanic kid in my class, and there were 2 black kids in the entire school. They were brother and sister, and their last name was White. Kay had a lot of learning to do. Right. Baby Kay learned a lot.
But and then when it comes to the other thing with streaming, what people don't realize is whether you were doing TTRPGs and like we've talked about many times before, you can't just be like, oh, me and my friends are going to go and stream and do what Critical Role does. And you're not just going to get on a stream and play a video game like you're hanging out with like your bestie online saying all the words that you're not supposed to say. Look, the Call of Duty waiting rooms, okay? I was in the trenches.
You can do that
for about 5 minutes, but it's all performance.
Yeah.
What we do, what other successful TTRPG people do, what other successful streamers do, is they perform. You are in front of a camera. You are in front of a microphone. If it's a podcast, if it's a Twitch stream, if it's a YouTube video, this is all performance. And if you lose track of the fact that you are performing for an audience, that you are using your personality and the amalgamation of who you are to connect with somebody through your medium, then you're not going to have the success that you want.
And this is why, like, I've talked a couple times on this show about, you know, how to brand yourself, how to start streaming. And it's like, be yourself, but be your best self is always what I say.
Yes.
Because unless you go full like Dr. Disrespect, who is a character, right? The person behind Dr. Disrespect.
Also, a pile
Right.
of steaming hot garbage.
But that is a personality and a character that they put on. Just like I put on characters when I play TTRPGs. But if you're trying to be something that you are very authentically are not, that's going to burn you out in no time, right? You figure out how to be yourself, but also be the best. You don't have to bring your worst qualities out for everyone to see, right? And ideally, streaming and TTRPGs can help you explore things and figure out how to more authentically and more frequently be the best version of yourself. I mean, I can't just show up and get fireballs to the face thanks to DC. You know, you could if you wanted to. But duckies. Did that do a thing? I think
I don't know, but I clicked on it either way. So,
Okay.
you know, here we are.
Yeah, I think that was when we were supposed to. I think I have it removed and it didn't get removed from your setup, but we will. All this is fun.
Right. And like, Kay and I have been streaming for years now. And we still fight with the tech. And Kay and I have both reached burnout with fighting with the tech. There have been times where Kay and I have been in a meeting. We've been just like waist deep in OBS and StreamerBot, and we looked at each other. We're like, no, because if we keep going, there isn't enough alcohol in the world to protect the civilian population. And so we stopped there. And a little peek behind the curtain is I've run production on a number of things now. And I've had some extremely big TTRPG people and some incredibly talented TTRPG people get into the green room and be looking at me while I'm trying to make tech stuff happen. And I can tell you 100% of the time, literally every time, especially in front of the biggest people, something fucking breaks. Every time. Mm-hmm. And you know what's been really cool? The next 20 minutes is everybody going around talking about how tech broke for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as you go and do things, as you go and build a streaming career, as you go and you know, plan your home games, like even if you're not recording anything, something will go wrong. Something will not go according to plan. Something that you thought was 100% secure will decide to shit the bed. That is what happens. That is what everything does.
If it's not the tech, one of your players will get grumpy that other people weren't paying enough attention and set everyone on a red herring chase to make the GM develop an entire new area 5 days in game hike away, just to see when people figure out.
Yep. When you have to build not only a new storyline, but a new city filled with NPCs because somebody heard one sentence and took it and ran with it. but like, you know, remember that's the other thing is, like everything that you want to present to the public, whether it be static art on canvas or a piece of music or streaming like we do or a podcast or whatever, there is something that drew you to do that in the first place. There's something about that is fun. And you have to remember to occasionally go and tap into that and to remind yourself of why it is that you're here. And when you're dealing with burnout and when you're trying to be patient with yourself while you recover, while you try to distract yourself while with B, while your tolerance for A rebuilds, you have to remind yourself, hey, I'm doing this because I love this thing. I'm doing this because I have an affinity and this thing speaks to me. You got to remind yourself why you're being patient, why you're doing all the work.
And again, you can burn out of certain things and in certain ways, and we would be remiss if we did not spend a little bit of this time talking about the dreaded GM burnout.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Now, I haven't been GMing long enough where I've hit this. Like when I do GM, there's often big breaks in between. But I've had so many GMs. Some of the best GMs I know have hit GM burnout. And it's not because they don't love their party. It's not because they don't love the story. They just can't. They're like, I just need some time. And for some people, for a lot of the time, one of the players has to step up and run a game for a while, right? GM's like, I can't run it. Who can? Because I need my turn on the other side of the screen for a little while. And I've known a few GMs who are like, I am a forever GM. I have no desire to be a player. I just can't run games for a while. And that's really tough because, at least for me, I really want to help. And when I can't, when the answer is, nah, you sit down and wait for me to get my stuff together, I just really want to help. That's hard for me.
The time and the waiting and the acceptance of, well, nothing can be done is the hardest part. And when you have friends who've experienced great trauma, people you care about who've suffered great loss, one of the hardest things is being like, well, there's nothing I could do or nothing I could say about this. It's like, look, the tornado took your entire home. Sucks, bro. Like,
my girlfriend turned into the moon.
Right. But silver lining, you tapped the moon. Like, who can see? Soka's resume is undefeated. Is unmatched.
I loved the meme about like students of history in that world years later are like, do you know the guy that fucked the moon, created hot air balloons and submarines and drills? Well, he didn't really create submarines.
Right. Right. It's like, mein Gott. Undefeated resume. And he learned how to not be a shitbag, which, honestly, the biggest achievement. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
David, tell us about GM burnout.
So, I haven't experienced GM burnout in the way that a lot of people experience it, because a section of GM burnout is decision fatigue. And if you are certain flavors of neurodivergence, especially ADHD, you get decision fatigue really quickly. It's why it's one of the reasons why certain people hyperfocus is because if you're like, listen, all I'm eating this week is hummus and pita chips, then not only is that something that you've hyper focused on, but that's also a decision that you do not have to make. And if you think about it, especially for people who don't build habits and routines the way that like neurotypicals do, then literally everything you do is a decision. So with GMing is 3 to 4 hours of decisions that you have to make rapid fire one after the other. And like I said, that's not something that I really experience. I'm really fortunate in that I'm hardwired to boss everyone around all the time relentlessly. But and I hate to put it this way, but as a player, you are making decisions for one person. And so in a lot of ways it's easier to be a player. As a GM, you are making decisions for 3, 4, 5 people. And you have a bunch of different plates spinning. And like for the kids out there, in variety shows back in like the 70s, they would spin plates on top of sticks, and then they'd get like 7 of them going, and then they'd keep them spinning for a time, and then the plates would fall and they would crash, and everybody would go, it's really impressive. But you have so many things to keep track of for each character all the time. And if you're a good GM, you have all of your players in mind with every decision that you make, even if you're making a decision for one player. Like the god reaches down and touches one of your players, and you have to think about how that impacts everybody else. Plus, you have to keep track of all the things that are happening behind the scenes for other people or for other NPCs.
And balancing screen time and spotlight for everyone, making sure everyone gets a moment in combat.
And you also have to. So the point is, you're keeping track of a lot more things than a player is, including NPCs, including your villain. Just look at a combat run, because we've all seen TTRPGs with combat. If you got a combat with like 16 enemies, and even if they're all just like level 1 kobolds or CR 1/4 whatever, that's 16 different things you have to keep track of, plus your villain, plus what's happening in the town, plus the victim and the MacGuffin, and all. Doing that week after week, month after month, especially if you're doing it for different games, because that's another thing that I haven't had to like deal with, is I'm usually running one long-term game at a time, and then I'm doing one-shots or short campaigns. But I know people where they're running multiple long-term campaigns, and while the players go, oh man, I only play once a month, the GM is like, I play every week. I know a guy, a friend of mine, where he's running a game tonight, and then he's running or a home game tonight, a home game tomorrow, and a home game on Sunday. And they're 3 different games, and they meet every week. And he works 60 hours a week. And guess what? There are times where he calls like the nine or I think it's like 9 or 10 people that are in all these games, and he's like, yeah, so we're gonna be off for 3 months. We're done here for a time, because your brain overloads. It's too much for you to hold in your head all the time, and it's a lot of work.
The Chalice game that I was in over the initiative order, we were actually 2 different it was the same game, but there were two groups, and one group was chasing the other. And so one group would meet week 1, the second group would meet week 2. And the poor production person was like, this is the weirdest schedule. Hello, loved one. Welcome on in. Yeah, that's a wild amount of games. But our poor production person was like, I am just saying. So we did group 1, week 1, group 2, week 2, week off, so that the GM could recover. Now he had to figure out the plots for 2 different groups in the same game in that 1 week. And then we're back on group 1, week 4, group 2, week 5. And our poor production person is like, I'm just saying it happens every week because that's easier than explaining what is going on. Like, probably should have been group 1, week 1, week off, group 2, week off. But that's not, the GM's like, no, I want to do them back to back each week. And I'm like, bananas, ridiculous, pure respect.
But GM burnout can come from a lot of different angles. It could be, like I said, it could be just making the decisions like every 30 seconds for the 3 hours that you're doing. Kay and I are fortunate in that the way we GM games is I do production and I do a lot of like the bookkeeping and lore stuff behind the scenes, and Kay can focus more on the performance of GM and making those moment-to-moment decisions. And because of that, it streamlines a lot of our games, and it helps our players be more comfortable in the game and be more immersed in the game because they have much more access to information on the fly. But it also reduces the overall mental load of being a GM. It splits it between the both of us. Like, Kay doesn't have to sit and think about combat design on the fly. We put our heads together before. And the GM burnout can come from doing all the design that goes into the game. I know GMs where they have intricately planned out what's going to happen in their campaigns and carefully considered all the different offshoots for the next couple of months. And then one of their players is like, challenge accepted. I will break this.
I don't know if I sent you the clip because we were both having days, but Brennan Lee Mulligan, junior year of Fantasy High, they were doing investigation, trying to figure out this mystery. The player rolled a natural 20 on his investigation. Brennan's like, I have never been more prepared to honor a natural 20. Pushes a button, throws up a clip from the first season 5 years ago where Brennan planted this seed.
Ooh.
5 years later, gets to reveal it to the party.
But listen, you know better than anyone how much I love to bury something and then dig it up a long time later. Mm-hmm. Brennan Lee Mulligan, I applaud you. But even keeping track of something like that, like there are multiple GMs I've talked to where they're like, listen, this person dug out an arrow of dragon slaying that I gave them 2.5 years ago to kill this dragon that I thought was going to be this big boss, and I just forgot that I gave it to them.
Yes, no plan survives first contact with your players. Absolutely.
And so with GM burnout, first it's important to recognize all the different ways that it can happen, like what the causes of it. And then as you experience it, as you get closer to it, recognizing the causes means that you could do things to mitigate it. So, like I said before, I don't have decision fatigue, so I don't have to do things to mitigate the decisions I have. Whereas other GMs I know have like entire flow charts for NPCs. So when person goes, man, I pick his pocket, they just go to the piece of paper and go, whomp, and then they don't have, and that's a decision they don't have to make, and that staves off that burnout. And then the other thing that we talked about before is the importance of community, because if you are a GM and you're going, I can't handle this, if you don't have the kind of community, if you don't have the kind of players where you could say to them, hey, this is what's happening, we're taking a break, the end. And if your players don't have that same trust in you, then you have to reevaluate your relationship and work on that. Because I've been GMing a session where the players chew, because usually my players chew very slowly through my content. There's a shiny thing on the ground and they immediately focus on that, and the city could be on fire and they're like, that's cool, we'll get to that, but this right here is really, and I'm like, okay, good, we're gonna focus on this, and then like the city being on fire will happen over the next, like, but there have been times where I've like plotted out a thing and then an hour and a half goes by and I'm like, well, that's it for today. And they look at me and they're like, what? And I'm like, what happens past this? I have a vague idea, but the concrete plan has not been formulated. So this is where we're gonna stop.
Poor Matt. Poor Mimics and Misfits. Playing a Starfinder game, and he dropped some lore, some info about my character, who was an android who'd had their mind, no memories, like were hunting for their memories. They dropped some lore about that I took and went, oh, this has big implications. And then I sat on it until the next episode because there wasn't the right moment to bring it up. And then partway through the next episode, I'm like, so this means either X or Y, and both are really bad. And poor Matt had to go, we're going to break because I didn't realize those were potential implications, and I need to hold please. Like, your players will get you. For me, when I have come close to GM burnout, it was not decision paralysis. It was a deep-rooted, horrifying fear that my players were not having fun, that people were not invested in the story. And one such occasion, there was a good... I am still haunted by a comment that gave me that fear, right? But again, community and communication, everyone else is like, no, this is great, I don't feel that way. And since then, I have run this module since, and people have been like, love this module is grabbing me in a way that nothing else has in a long time. And I'm like, okay, it's a good module, I'm a good GM. Just because it didn't click with one person doesn't mean it's bad. But I've learned I have to be very careful about who I run games for, because I take it so personally, and it can and will destroy me as a GM.
And I run a home game. That is I ran a home game where a player was just a problem for numerous different reasons. And I felt that same doubt. I'm just like, what? What? But am I? And then I remembered that I'm awesome. And if somebody doesn't recognize that I am awesome, then they have a fundamental malfunction in how their reasoning processes work. And that person should be jettisoned into the sun.
Rex says if you're playing with a group of people who are as smart as you or smarter, they're going to pick your puzzles apart.
So I've got a trick for that. And I learned this I told Kay this story. This is not a story for stream, but give them a puzzle that doesn't have a solution. Give them something that you don't know the answer to. Be like, listen, I have the most devilish, fiendish, diabolical trap, and there's a god hovering over it who knows more than you and understands the secrets of the universe, and they drop some shit in your lap that you're never gonna figure out. fuck you. And then you turn your players loose. And then they will come up with a solution. You get 4 or 5 motherfuckers who are dedicated to breaking your fucking game, to making sure that their characters cause the most chaos as possible in the most hilarious forms that they can manage, and they will rewrite the laws of physics and make that shit work. And
or
then
just do.
And then when the session is over and they're patting each other on the back for coming up with the solution, they'll look at you and they'll go, so was that so like what were the details of the solution that you were envisioned? And you'll look at them and you'll go, solution? What solution? I didn't know the answer to this problem. I'm glad y'all came up with something, because otherwise we were all fucked.
Or do what Stephanie did to me before you joined the home game, where we're told you got to keep moving, right? This is the thing, you got to book it, you got to go fast. So we're trying to go fast, and we come up against a door with like a slider thing full of letters, and we're trying to figure out the password. We're trying to find it. What does it spell? What goes where? We're coming up with, what's this faction all about? They worship dragon. How does this? There's no G, so it can't be dragon. How do we? The door wasn't locked. No one tried to open the door. We spent all the time on the puzzle, missed the hatching of the dragon, because we didn't try the door.
Was J.R.R. Tolkien a little autistic? And the reason I ask this is because sometimes you gotta hit people with the Gandalf riddle, where he goes and sits in front of the Mines of Moria and like reads the inscription and it says, "Speak, friend, and enter." And he's like, "But I've been speaking and I'm a friend. I don't. And then he slaps himself on the head after like a couple hours where he's just like, "Friend." And then the doors open. You hit him with the most just basic ass. The door is unlocked.
I need to send you a clip of Fantasy High, because they were doing, there was the thing, it was a test. They were literally doing the last standard test. And waves of enemies are coming at an arena while they have to fight them off and do some academic, do a test. And their timed test, he's like, you have 1 minute, turns the sand clock over. And one of them, the level, it was a Gandalf level of, I know the answer, but I haven't put it together. So I'm speaking the answer in the incorrect way. And it was amazing. Rex says, what I like to do is have the consequences of their actions show up. Go ahead, be slick. I am sure no one will care.
Also, and we've talked about it on the channel before, but the running timer. Ooh,
nothing will mess up your party.
Oh, it's so good. One of my favorite home moments in a home game I was running is I presented a problem, everybody's sitting around and talking, and then I hit share screen because this is on Discord. Now, they're accustomed to my terrible, awful, no good MS Paint art. When I draw like battlefields and stuff, it's terrible. It's dog shit. And so they're expecting an MS Paint window, and so they're still like chit-chatting. And then the Google timer appears, like the web page appears, and then I hit button, and that motherfucker starts counting down. The panic on everyone's face. I wish I had a screenshot of it. I would print it out and put it up on my wall. I would frame it. It was so good. And when there were 12 seconds left on that fucking clock, they came up with a fucking solution and a plan of action, and it was amazing. But ooh-wee, the panic of the timer.
We hit Candace and their party and God playing with the timer, and it was amazing. But we are nearing the end of our time. And so, again, we have been discussing burnout, the reason it happens. Reminder, burnout is not your fault. Burnout is not your fault. There there's emotional intelligence and ways you can better monitor yourself to make sure you don't fall too deeply into that, but burnout is not your fault. It can come on for many reasons, and it can manifest in different ways. Lady Luck was absolutely correct in pointing out recovery from burnout is not a straight line. It is not a linear path. You will move forward and backwards. And it is difficult but important that you be patient with yourself. And you cannot logic or my big problem, you cannot to-do list bullet point your way out of burnout and get yourself to do things by guilting yourself with to-do lists. Don't be me. Don't be me. But yes, David, any final thoughts on burnout, be it GM or otherwise?
The most important thing to keep in mind, and the hardest thing to deal with when it comes to burnout, is time. Is the time it takes to recover, because there's nothing you can do to speed it up. There's no way to outthink it. There's no way to logic it. There's no way to brain it.
But there is a way to make it take longer.
But yeah, there is. Oh man, there is a way to make it take longer. And the other important part of that is community. I'm extremely fortunate that I have had a great community, including all of y'all, including Kay, including very close friends of mine who have been extremely patient with me while I have addressed issues in my life. And part of the issues in my life have been extreme burnout. And honestly, I did not understand it was burnout until like a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm still playing the waiting game. Just like I couldn't carry the box upstairs for like another 3 days, I am impatiently waiting for more burnout to clear out, for more mental clarity to come. But is there a way to stab burnout?
I would stab burnout if I could.
Twice. But your community and their patience and gathering the right people around you is really, really, really important. And we're not going to name names, but there, I mean, if you want to name names, we can name names. I
just feel like this is going to be an attack against me.
No.
Okay.
No, they're actual bad people.
Okay. Okay.
I could have gone in a different direction. I could have made this into a rap beef diss track. Oh god, that wasn't a cat. Okay. My heart.
The fear of when you live with cats and you roll over something, you're like, was that a tail?
But just like in any community, there are bad actors in the TTRPG community. And I'm extremely fortunate because in a lot of ways I'm insulated from those people. But the community you choose and the community that chooses you is a reflection of who you are as a person. We've got nothing but awesome people. And that's because Kay is awesome. But the people you choose for your community is, speaking of awesome community people, but the people you choose to be in your community means a lot as well. And so just like you need time, you also need community. So, in a lot of cases, it's better to be alone than to be with shitty people. And if you're having burnout and you're having trouble processing that and recovering from that, like I did, then maybe create some distance between you and the shitty people.
And again, remember, in streaming, especially in streaming TTRPGs, you're doing like 8 different jobs before you start GMing. Like even before you start GMing, right? You've done a metric ton of things, from graphic design to advertising to social media management to community analysis. Like you're doing to tech, you're doing a lot. You're researching a lot, you're learning a lot. It is completely normal for that to be horribly difficult and so likely to burn you out, especially, as I said, in the early days when you're streaming to like 1, maybe 2 people, neither of whom are chatting, right? But you still have to be on and performing. Be kind to yourself because you're doing a lot. People like, yes, there are people whose streams are incredibly slick and look amazing. If you look at Mr. Live Producer's streams, they're amazing. He's also a literally live producer for MMA fights, right? He has so much professional experience that translates perfectly to what he does. Whereas you look at people like Ninja, y'all, I've run Ninja live streams. I know how many people work on Ninja's live stream. I know the guy who built and set up Ninja's streaming computer, right? Like these are not, you are often doing more things than the people who you are probably trying to emulate because they have the money, they have the funds, they have the following to outsource a lot of that. So do not beat yourself up that your streams do not look as good or that your sound is not as perfect. Don't be upset that your actual play doesn't look like Critical Role, because we know the leaks, so we know how much money Critical Role is making just off of Twitch before everything else, and the kinds of resources that they can invest into their stream. So, Ilaria, Kato, thank you both for joining us. We are literally wrapping up and about to go. I think we're going to raid Xander, David. If you are on board, we can go. Because my friend Pooh Bear is playing Hades 2, but also I know a lot of people, including David, are wanting to wait for that to come out to not be spoiled. Be Critical Role MS Paint Edition. Exactly.
Right. And don't beat yourself up for not being able to buy the support that bigger people can buy. Like you've seen the credits on a movie before. It's not just Leonardo DiCaprio and a 24-year-old woman making that movie.
And here's the other thing I'm gonna tell you. No worries. You are wonderful. We are happy you are here. Like, let me remind you, you look at the credits on a video game.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that at least 40% of the people who worked on that game are not in the credits for one reason or another. How do I know this? I work in video games. I know people who've worked on video games and their names are nowhere near that credit, and they have put in years.
As a former below the line employee in Hollywood, not only have I worked on hundreds of films, but I know people who have worked on dozens, if not hundreds of films. And you can't find them on IMDb. You can't find them in any credits. And I have sat in a theater with dozens of below the line employees where the taboo of like being quiet in a movie theater gets violated when the credits roll, because everybody is talking about all the people that they know in the credits and, you know, how much fun they had working with so-and-so, or a funny story about so-and-so, or how this person's an asshole. Like, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a much bigger network of people to create the entertainment or to create the content that we all enjoy.
And again, it takes a lot of work to put things in. I am a jack of a billion trades. I can do a lot of things, if not decently, then pretty well. Not a master of most things, but I'm good enough to make these overlays, right? These were made by me. I didn't make the art. I think it's over here. No, you're on that. Yeah, I didn't make the art here because I know.
Oh, big shout out. That art continues to fucking live with me. It's great.
I know what I can do and I know what I need to throw money at or do trades, because you can do skill swaps. You can say, hey, I will do X for you if you will make me Y. A lot of people need that. I came into producing with a lot of experience already in hand, a lot of skills that I could already do. I still had to learn, how do chat bots work? How does streamer bot work? How does, even knowing OBS, how do I multi-stream to both Twitch and YouTube? Like, how do I add redeems? How do I make custom sound redeems for my stream? I had to learn all of this. And there's an amazing community that just put out information for free on YouTube. And then I started meeting other people and going, are you willing to tell me how you do that? Herb has given me so many tricks of how he does things. Mr. Live Producer built the Pathfinder Redeem for us, right? Simply because I have wanted to do this. And he goes, oh, I think I can do that. Do you mind if I build it and I will give it to you and then I want to release it elsewhere? And I'm like,
but go nuts. Go ham.
So and I may have gotten scolded about this from my therapist today. I don't know who she thinks she is to boss me around. But like, asking for help is good and important. And that is a really good way to avoid burnout. And asking for help does not mean you are any less independent, any less skilled. It just means you are assimilating knowledge in the quickest way possible. Or if you want to be the rogue, you're stealing knowledge.
Yeah.
And then be a good rogue and do the Robin Hood thing and redistribute it as well.
And we talk about, in conversations about community, there's a lot of talk about being there for others, like being a good community. But being a good community member is also both asking for and being willing to receive help. Because there are too many people out there who are like, oh man, I do all these things for other people when they ask for help because they need it. And that's great for them, but it's great for everybody else except for me. And it's like, no, if you want to be good community, then you need to ask for help too, because there are tons of people who don't feel good about their contributions to the community when no one's asking and there's nothing they can give.
So yes, burnout is not your fault. There is no way to rush it. Lean on others and do your very best to be kind to yourself. As we say at the end of every stream, be kind to yourself, be excellent to others. It's not necessarily easy to do, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. So let me just say, thank you, DM Jazzy Hands, for the raid. Thank you to the transmissions for the raid. We got, y'all, we are at 579 followers as of today. So thank you, Prelt. Thank you, Hamalu. Thank you, Torrent Talks Creativity. Thank you, Emily Bard 20. Thank you, Carrion Kingston. Thank you, Old Mad Ben. Thank you, Craven Cookie, for the follows. Whew. This was a huge stream for us, y'all. Thank you all for being awesome. I hope you have learned a thing. I hope you feel energized. I hope you feel like more prepared to tackle whatever it is. And remember, just because someone else can do it, just because someone else is able to weather or do this thing, doesn't mean that you not having that same level or that same ability is a bad reflection on you. There's something else that you can do better than that other person.
And just like you can't see other people's struggles, you also can't see all the advantages that they have.
So with that, we're going to wrap up. Thank you all again for hanging out. It was lovely to see you all. I apologize for the quality of my voice. I'm going to go drink some hot tea. And we are going to go right over to Xander. Thank you all again. Have a great day. Be kind to yourself. Be excellent to others. And we will see you next time.